Darryl Cooper, I saw an edited clip of you that looked pretty bad. What's his name? Ben Shapiro. That guy's voice is so funny. It seems like, you know what they should do? They should take the voice of the little twink that the Charlie Kirk assassin was banging, and they should give his voice to Ben Shapiro, so he sounds like a man and is tolerable.
Dude, his voice is anti-Semitic. It's like if somebody did that voice imitating a Jewish person, you would call that person anti-Semitic.
Yeah, seriously, get in trouble. Not even on Halloween could you get away with that. Anyway, so I could just hardly listen to the guy. I swear. You know, my anecdote of the whole Ben Shapiro is I knew who he was when he started writing in favor of the Iraq War back in 03 or 4 or whatever when he was a kid. And so I already knew who he was, and I knew that there was nothing that I had to learn from him, nothing interesting there at all. So I just ignored him. And YouTube, man, YouTube would just constantly put him in the right-hand margin of my page, no matter what I'm looking at. Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro. Years of this, literally years. And finally, one of the headlines was interesting enough that I clicked on it. And I didn't even realize that I had never heard his voice before until I did. And then I heard it, and he goes, me, 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 me. And I just was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the guy who's like somehow the leader of the conservative movement in America or something, whatever he is. Anyway, so he played this clip of you to prove what a bad guy Tucker Carlson is, that he would sit across a table from you. And it starts out without the part about, yeah, when I'm joking around with my buddy Jocko, the Anglo, and I'm picking on him and trying to get a charge out of him, sometimes in my hyperbolic way, I'll say that Churchill was the real villain of World War II. So that whole part about, yeah, when I'm jerking my friend's chain around and I'm being like deliberately provocative, to coin a phrase, then I like to say it like this, Tucker. Well, that part is cut out. Right. And then the rest of it is still there, but then it's supposed to just be self-evident that you love Hitler or something like that, although it didn't seem like that was what you actually said. But here's the thing about it is we got a show together. So I can just give you the floor and you can say whatever you want about it. Darryl, how do you like that? Go ahead.
Well, the first thing I want to do is read this comment by one of the viewers, Fear the Old Blood. Shapiro's voice is an Eighth Amendment violation. I'd rather listen to RFK Jr. read me a dirty novel. I love it. I mean, look, man, like, first of all, there's no reason for somebody like me to until our producer Chris just showed me the clip. I had heard that it happened, but I hadn't watched it.
Tucker Carlson will have on a Hitler-friendly pseudo-historian to minimize the Holocaust and blame Winston Churchill for World War II, and he will call him America's best and most honest historian.
I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities, but I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland. You know, Germany, look, they put themselves into a position, and Adolf Hitler is chiefly responsible for this, but his whole regime is responsible for it, that when they went into the East in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that. And they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there.
And that is the pseudo-historian that Tucker Carlson has said is the best and most honest historian in America.
I know what I said on Tucker's show. I know which clips he was going to cut out, and I knew what he was going to say about them and what use he was going to put them to.
Right.
But also, the other reason that I didn't watch it is, thankfully, I mean, you said, like, whatever he is, leader of the conservative movement, maybe like 7-8 years ago, Ben Shapiro doesn't matter. He doesn't matter anymore. And that is one of the best things that has developed out of like all of these recent events of the last few years, is that people like him don't matter. You think about like what it was that somebody like Ben Shapiro, what was his gig? What was his job? Why did he get so much seed money for the Daily Wire? And why was it promoted just so endlessly on every channel? Why were you seeing it on YouTube like every time you went to the webpage? He had one job. His job was to draw in the right-wing American youth, or at least the American youth who were tired of being screeched at by blue-haired freaks on their college campuses, and they were tired of being chased to their cars by mobs when they dared to go to a Trump rally, to draw those people in, tell them what they wanted to hear, go to the college campuses and own the blue-haired freaks on stage and make sure it goes viral. But then to make sure that none of those people that were coming in as his audience wandered off the reservation on the one thing that really matters to Ben Shapiro and people like him, and that is the U.S. stance toward Israel. It's laughable that people like Ben Shapiro think they have the ability to police the ranks of the American right anymore. I mean, all the people who are coming at me and coming at Tucker Carlson now, they're the same people who put their names on the cover of National Review in 2016 to say that they would never, ever, under any circumstances, support Trump, and now claim to be the leaders of the MAGA movement and, able to decide who gets to stay and who gets to go. It's laughable. It's ridiculous. They couldn't stop Trump then when they had all the institutional power, when they controlled all the conservative institutions and the Republican Party. They couldn't stop him because they didn't really even matter that much then. You think Ben Shapiro really cares about just the sort of accuracy of history with regard to World War II? He doesn't care about that.
Right.
He cares about it because he takes it personally, because he thinks it has something to do with his group. He thinks World War II, the biggest, vastest global conflict in world history, 60 million people dead, was about the Holocaust. That's what it's about to him. And that's fine. That's understandable. My wife's Armenian. They think the First World War was about the Armenian genocide. That's perfectly fine. But this was a much bigger historical event than just this one thing that happened on the Eastern Front. And today, Ben Shapiro hauls out these edited clips from me, brings out other things against Tucker, and he does it for what purpose? Not to correct the record of history. He's doing it because people like me, people like Tucker, we are speaking in reasonable ways to normal conservative people who are getting who have gotten very squeamish about what they've been seeing live streamed to their phones in Gaza for the last few years. Okay. And it's not just professional anti-Semites and foreign policy nerds who are noticing it this time.